So we're going to start with the meeting. Please continue listening or continuing to try to switch over for those that can. And so we're going to initiate starting the meeting. Please continue to chat with any questions or any responses, and I'll, if it's on Zoom here, I'll relay it to the group.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I've got my mic on. So did you want to go ahead and give the intro, Ben, and go ahead and start?
So good morning, everybody. Definitely appreciate everybody's time. I know it's a busy time of year, and it takes a lot of effort to show up and participate in these, and so it's definitely well appreciated. So what we're here for today is a workshop with the businesses to review, get some feedback from the businesses on how our relatively recent shopping cart ordinance is working and what might be some potential ways to amend it to improve it. And so we've reached out to the businesses, set it up as a feedback. Today we have Lincoln Eden is here, that many of you know from working with the businesses in town. That kind of takes the lead for the city on code enforcement with the shopping carts. Troy Koski is with the police department that works specifically with homeless and dealing with those situations. And then we have our Councilman Shaw, who's taken the charge, I would say, with the update for this ordinance. And then online we have David Palmer with the city staff and myself with City Staff Development Services to kind of help manage the changes and run the meeting. So with that, Dave, please.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Hopefully everybody can hear. I'm going to use the microphone so everybody can hear this online. But let me start by saying again, thank you for being here. I know you guys both took time away from your businesses to be here, as well as those that are on Zoom. First thing that I can say out of the chute is what happened a few years ago. I want to apologize because I know the process went through. I wasn't on the council at that time, but I know, Kevin, you were here and there was a whole lot of debate on, is it 70 carts, 72 carts, and going to require you to do this and require you to do that. And at the end of the day, it was more, in my personal opinion, more force-fed on our business partners than it was working collaboratively. So what I'm asking from each of our business partners is that we sit down and do a restart and a reboot on this, and let's work collaboratively to figure this out. Because there's two parts of this that goes on. Number one, you guys have theft loss. Any way you slice this, the shopping carts are an asset. They're not cheap to replace. And people are stealing. And I sat here in the chambers right out there about where you were at, Kevin, when the meeting was going on. And the comment was made that Susie Homemaker is just taking the shopping cart home and doing this. And it's like, it doesn't matter. Any way you slice it, when you take the shopping carts off the premise, whether it's homeless or whether it's, you know, a normal residence, is stealing from the business because that's your asset and your property. And so one of the loopholes that we want to fix, and we've already started working on this, is a simple address of that. And that is that it should be illegal to have a shopping cart off the business premise, period. And that will hopefully put some of the responsibility back on the public to comply with the laws. At the same time, speaking with Mr. Moody, I know that we need to make sure that all of our business partners are updated on the requirements there, because I believe it's the Consumer Affairs or something like that. That's there's guidelines that you need to have proper signage on your doors, and you guys should be keeping serial numbers of your shopping carts. You know, just some normal things that make the public aware that, you know, it's stealing if they take the shopping cart. So that's the one thing that I see that needed to be added to the ordinance as it was written about 3 or so years ago, because there was nothing as far as residents and people taking your carts. Everything was put on the businesses, you know, and it was totally ignored that you were being a victim of theft and crime. So, you know, I'll ask Mr. Moody to talk about the requirements there shortly, because I don't think they're intense in that part, but we need to make sure that We work collaboratively going forward with an education process once we do change the ordinances, that the public knows that they can't just randomly take shopping carts home, and that you guys help us out with the few requirements that are there. And I believe it's just some signage and stuff like that needs to happen. And those are already set up in the California side, so it's nothing we need to do there. We just need to make it a little stronger in our local ordinances with, you don't take them off the premises. The second part of what we want to do is look to find out what we can do to partner with the businesses that have shopping carts to solve the problem that we find all across Yuba City. The biggest problem that we have is in our homeless population, and as Officer Koski can share with us and tell, they load them up, and then once they get to where they are too big, they just dump them somewhere, and then they go get another one. And we're finding them behind buildings, we're finding them on street corners, we're finding them anywhere and everywhere. And we need to figure out how to stop it on the front end, but yet retrieve them on the back end. The last ordinance got into businesses of some size. You didn't have to do anything, but if you were over, I believe it was 70 some odd carts or something like that, or maybe 90 carts. It was, 90, yeah. I knew you would know that one, Kevin. But anybody at that time that was over 90 had to put on the wheel locks, and we know how expensive they are. But we also realize that the homeless have kind of figured out a way. They run those past it, they lock up, they crack open the wheels and break them, and they still take them wherever they're going. And it's pretty darn expensive. And then we know that there's also in the current ordinance, the way it's written, whether you're above 90 or not, if you're even a small retail store, you got 10 shopping carts, you're supposed to put the wheel locks on. That's the way it's written. We have to come up with something that's fair for everybody, that helps us retrieve those shopping carts, because right now, the latter part of that problem is we have these plans, but the plans aren't getting picked up. And I don't think it's any part of the businesses. I think it's part of how they contract, because I believe some of these services are coming out of Sacramento. They don't want to come up to Yuba City, so they only come up once a week, maybe twice a week. And so a shopping cart may just lay on a street corner for 2 or 3 days, and then we finally collect it back. So as far as I'm concerned, as we're taking a look at this from the city and our business partners, let's work together to figure out how we solve this. 2 areas. One, let's make it to where people know that they shouldn't take shopping carts off the property, period. And honestly, hopefully we get just a lot of voluntary compliance on that through education. So that should hopefully stop that part of the problem. But the other is, how do we make it a level playing field for everyone and get the shopping carts retrieved? Whether that's something partnering with the city, a third-party vendor, how is this whole process going to work? So, Ben will go over what's there now, so we all have an understanding. And then let's just have an open dialogue, because this needs to be a partnership. We don't want to do anything from this council that's going to overburden business, that is going to be something that we all can't live with. We want this to be a collaborative effort, and at the end of the day, we need your help. That's bottom line why we're here. We need to work together. So Ben, if you'll kind of give us an update like you did the council of where we're at, what we're talking about, and then we'll just start having an open dialogue.
Just push the button on accident here, so we'll wait for this to reload. While we wait for that to reload for a minute. So thank you, Dave, for the introduction. So I'm going to give a quick background information. So I'm your Development Services Director, and taking the lead on the staff's behalf to kind of work through the update. And so back in September, we brought forward this item to city council to initiate the shopping cart update. So city council provided us that direction to proceed forward with this update. And so with that, I'm going to give you a quick background as far as kind of where we're at since the 2017 ordinance came into effect. Of course, bear with me. All right, here we go. So, so a little background. So council's provided input that there's interest in modifying the shopping cart ordinance to better meet the needs of the city and businesses. The current code is relatively new. Back in 2017, late 2017, it came into effect to establish these different matrix of what you have to do based on what your size is. That came into effect early January 2018. There's approximately 35 businesses that have shopping carts in Yuba City. And so that's changed a little bit with COVID. I think we're close to 40, and then that's been reduced a little bit and fluctuates. And so, so you can see some of the sizes vary quite a bit. When you break down those sizes, you have 3 that are less than 10, 12 in the 10 to 40, 10 in the 40 to 90. I didn't have any in the 90 to 150, and then 150 plus, you start seeing 9 businesses. And those 9 businesses are your Walmart, Winco, Food Max, Home Depot, Sam's Club, or some of your big Rayleighs or some of your bigger vendors in town with the shopping carts. So this is the problem that really led to the change in 2017. As far as where the push was, there was a lot of shopping carts abandoned all over town. It was putting a drain on public resources where, basically it was streets crews were going around picking these things up all over town, and we were getting a lot of complaints on them. So some of the reports that came in, so we have through our YC 311 reporting system, so the city's system for basically receiving complaints. As you can see, 2017, before it went into effect, we were pushing almost 700 complaints about abandoned shopping carts. With the ordinance going into effect early 2018 and then working through the businesses to set up those abandoned shopping cart plans and the retrieval systems, it decreased. And then when in 2020, obviously we have COVID and so those numbers. But there was a substantial decrease in the number of complaints around town. But as Councilman Shaw, the effort was put on to the businesses. And so it was abandoned shopping cart plan. It basically established this threshold and criteria that said if you get over 10, you got to have, or 90, you got to have the 10, you got to have the plan. Over 90, you have to have a contract service it. And if you don't meet those pickup requirements, then we could make you have the wheel locks. So here's that matrix. 9 or fewer, we set this threshold as 9 or fewer being exempt, existing businesses being exempt from the abandoned shopping cart prevention program. But the caveat with that is new businesses are required to have it if they have shopping carts going forward. So 10 to 90, they must submit the plan to the city. They may elect to retrieve their own carts. And we've set a criteria that you're supposed to pick them up within 24 hours of us giving you notice. 91 or more, it says you shall enter in with a retrieval company. So this is just, as you know more better than us, is an example of the wheel locking system that a few of the businesses around town have implemented. And, there's definitely pros and cons, and Lincoln is available to add to, and you can, regarding people are still able to push them past the boundary if they try hard enough and steal them. So it's costly, there's maintenance, and it's not necessarily meeting the needs. So some of the information that I'd love to get feedback from the group today was, I know when we were trying to put this together, kind of put the background info, Lincoln reached out to a few of the businesses, and we were kind of figuring out what the costs were. So we're hearing that to buy a new shopping cart, it ranges from $120 to $200, depending on the volume that you buy at a time or the size. They typically got a 10-year life. Local businesses, they're telling us a price, for a cart retrieval contract service. They're paying anywhere between $150 to $200 per month, with a 1 to 2 day a week pickup, and a $400 to $500 for a 3 to 5 day a week pickup. And we've heard that there's some conflicts with that, because in our code we tell you, hey, you need to pick it up within 24 hours. But the retrieval businesses are out of Sacramento, and based on coming up, it's hard to get the contractor to drive up for one cart. And so a lot of times they sit around for multiple days until you have the 1 or 2 days a week where they drive up and pick them up. And so so there's a question, is that 24-hour realistic? Wheel locking systems, based on Winco and FoodMax. I'm glad to see the FoodMax rep here today, maybe could add to it, that, Winco with approximately 600 carts, it cost them $43,000 to do the install, with a maintenance of $800, $1,200 per quarter. And then you had FoodMax with 200 carts, close to $30,000, and similar maintenance costs. So when we're looking at this ordinance, there's definitely, besides pushing for that clarity that defines it's illegal to take shopping carts off the premise, and a reference to the state business and professions code that has similar language in the state, so we mirror each other so it matches. Staff threw out a few ideas for discussion today that we'd love to hear feedback from, and with those, there's potential options to tweak the ordinance that would maybe help the businesses and the city be more realistic to meet the needs. And so a few of these ideas were modify the cart threshold numbers to aid small businesses. So we go back to that matrix and we tweak those numbers if they need to be modified. We modify the retrieval period time to be more realistic for what the needs are based on that metrics. We require a containment system, such as a wheel lock and your stock management, would be put in place for retailers at a certain size. So maybe instead of just an option, if they don't do it so well, we say, hey, if you got 500 carts, you need to have a containment system in, and then maybe there'd be an option if you have the containment system in, you don't have to have the cart retrieval contract going. So it's not a double zing. Provide businesses with an option regarding contract retrieval equipment, if you have the containment system as just talked, and then remove, right now, the way it is that a new business, it's required to have the containment system at a certain size. So the containment system, so new businesses would adhere to the same requirements. So basically make the new businesses match. It's not a separate, there's not a separate criteria for new businesses versus what we have for existing businesses.
Mr. Moody, I believe new businesses coming in, it was a much smaller threshold. It was like 10 carts or something. I mean, it was pretty much any small business coming in with shopping carts had to have the electronic locks, which we see this. So this was one clear thing that we went was not business friendly, and so we need your help in this one. So
absolutely. So with that, we would love to get your feedback and input. And for the group, there's a speaker up here that we could probably pass around or go up and push the button. If you talk into that, then everybody online could hear, and we'll record it. But however we would like to add to it, and Councilman Shaw, you like to run the feedback.
Okay, absolutely. Go ahead and let everybody who's online and stuff know who you are, and then go ahead and give us your feedback. If we could, there's a microphone right on that podium, and I hate to be more formal, but we do have people online, and that will help pick up your voice.
Looks like it's on. It's on. Green means talk.
Okay, my name's Bob Hess. I oversee the Food Max and Save Marts and Lucky banner. So we have approximately 208 stores currently. And we've been installing these cart containment systems for some time because of the cost of the cart retrieval. cart maintenance and cart replacement. And it does get kind of spendy. Lincoln and I have been keeping in touch with the numbers and the dollar amounts. CGA actually picks up our shopping carts. It's a retrieval, and they charge $26 per load. So whether they pick up 1 cart, 3 carts, or 8 carts, it's $26. So that means every time they show up to pick up a cart, it could cost me $26 for 1 cart, which is kind of outrageous. So we've been negotiating terms with them because of our size. We can, negotiate a little bit better. But installing these cart containment systems, what you got to realize is the struggle that I'm having when I'm doing this is the perimeter is like a big dog fence, and you have to get landlord approval, owners approvals, and I've been trying to put 15 of these systems in all year, and I'm at number 14 right now. We're getting close to the end of the year, across the state, because of the kickbacks from real estate saying, we want to hear more about this. We want to know how it works. We want to make sure these shopping carts don't lock up in front of the other tenants, right? So for the struggle that I think we're having, if you want to look at it as a business where we're really struggling, it's not that we don't want to put them in. It's not that we don't think it's a great idea. It's that we're having those kind of struggles. So just be aware of that as a city council, that when you're asking for these things, if it's not built into your city landlords and your owners, that needs to be negotiated in the leases when they sign the lease. So you might want to give them the heads up. That's part of the problem we're having. But once we get these systems in, it's called a Gatekeeper for us. We use their system. It's, like I said, a big dog fence around the perimeter and around the back. The carts wheel up to that line. We have it identified with a yellow strip, and we have signage throughout the parking lot, and it will lock up. If these guys want to take it and pick it up over their head before it locks up, and lift it over their head, they can. It's about a 4-foot radius up and down, to where if it's empty, they could actually lift it up and over, right? So then they can keep on wheeling. So that's been some of the problem. They also want to put them into a U-Haul truck and take them on down south or anywhere, like when you steal beehives. They can take them anywhere they want to go and do whatever they want with them. So we're still replacing them at a higher rate. We might get 50 to 100 carts missing within a week. And that's either a break in the line, so we go out and test the system, but if the line's working and everything's fine, we know that somebody else is doing this and they're removing them from the property. So just to give you a price on those, it's $72 for a set of casters, which is 2 wheels. You take your poly wheels off at each corner, you put the wheels on, and you put it on the cart. You've now got a $200 plus cart, that for our cost, because the cost of the cart and the cost of the poly wheels and the installation, it's going to be over $200 per cart, right? So if you have a size store like we do at Food Max with 200 to 250 carts, it becomes quite expensive. You're talking $40,000. So when these things leave the lot, I have a pretty cool trick. When I see them cruising down the road and I know they got them off the lot, I can pull out with my remote and lock them. It's kind of entertaining. So then I call my friends in law enforcement, and I give them a call and just let them know, and I sit back and watch for 10 minutes till unfortunately, they dump their stuff in the city, and that's not good for either one of us. But I'm able to retrieve my cart. I'll just swing by and throw it in the back. But cart service, like you said, coming from Sacramento, that could be, if you go with a reputable one like CGA, they'll have them distributed throughout the cities, and you should have them on contract to show up within that time frame. That's just us. I don't know who uses the local mom and pops or the local vendors, but there are companies out there that are big enough to come and take care of your needs within, I would say, 3 or 4 days. We have them on call, and they do respond to us, but like I said, we're pretty big. We have a few stores, so we can negotiate that. But it is quite spendy. So I feel for these small businesses that don't have this containment system, because I only have this containment system in 1/3 of our stores. So the other 2/3 of our stores, we do have this problem, and I've worked with all cities throughout the state and Nevada. We have over 125 law enforcement jurisdictions that I deal with for civil unrest, for the pandemic, for our sales. Anybody here that's in grocery understands the increase in sales right now with the new surge with COVID. We're seeing a high increase in customer traffic, which means we need all of our carts. So it's not like the cities and the counties haven't been working with us. It's just some are a little harder than others. So I've been to a few of these. I can tell you from a really drastic people that don't want to work with merchants, is one that comes off to mind is San Jose. You know, I have 14 stores in San Jose, and they see one cart out there, it's Blythe, and they'll grab it and they'll charge you for it. So not only do they charge you the $50 fine, then you got to pay for the cart retrieval to come pick it up. By the time you're almost done, it's almost half the price of the cart for one cart. So we don't want to do that to businesses, I can tell you from my point of view. I also worked with Troy for years as law enforcement. I'm a reserve officer across the way in Marysville. So we understand the business and professions codes when we're going out dealing with this, and we're trying to do the right thing. You can cite these guys all day long. The counties and the DAs, they're not going to have time to deal with it. They're not going to have time to do anything to them. And they really don't have anything, so it doesn't benefit either one of us. So we do need to come up with a solution, I think, as a business in the city to maintain those carts on the lot as much as we can. Before I got the cart containment system, I did things like I put poles at the beginning and the end of it with a little rack, and I would lock them up with a chain and padlock them at the end of the night, so at least they didn't leave the lot at night when we weren't using them. With our cart containment system now, we can lock the wheels in the front and in the back, and all the carts in between will stay locked up because they can't get them out. So that's kind of a neat thing. The other cart containment system piece of this is called PerCheck. I have some videos here I can show you guys offline, but it locks the cart as you're going out the door when you haven't paid for the groceries, and those are really entertaining. So you'll see people with $300 or $400 kind of struggling, and you'll see your clerks running up and they'll run off. So I've got some from this Food Max here, but again, I don't want to get off topic here. We as a business have invested about $50,000 per cart containment system by the time we're all said and done, for the cameras, the big line around the business, and then the carts and the wheels with casters on them. And then you got to keep up with their maintenance. So they have a 5-year warranty on that. I'm not a salesman for them, but they do have a 5-year warranty, so they take care of the wheels unless the treads go because they're dragging them, and you just replace those. But I do feel for the businesses that are in between 10 and 100 carts, because once they lose a third of their carts, they can't do business. And that's crucial for you guys because, you get a tax base from our revenue generated by our business. So we want to continue being a great partner with you. And working with Lincoln has been nice because I've been able to show him what we do in other cities and where we think the struggles are, and kind of look at it as our business trying to maintain their sales and for our customer base. The worst thing a city could do is hinder that and really hit home and really drive these small businesses, especially what's going on with the country now, out of business because they can't afford the fines. And we see that in some of our other cities, and I don't see that here in Yuba City, and I never have, but I would hate to see it go that direction. So I'm glad that you guys are bringing us in and talking to us about this. So if there's anything I can do from my expertise, from what I've been doing for years, I actually handle shopping carts for my whole company. That means transfers, purchases, repairs, cleaning, and these contracts. Never thought that'd be part of my job, but it has been assigned to me. So I consider myself somewhat of an expert. So if you have any issues with vendors or you want some ideas, please work through Lincoln to get that information for me, and I'll take care of it. Thank you.
Quick question for you. So, we've got all these costs, $26 per cart, 72, per casters, all these different things going on. If you put it together on a monthly average, what is the shopping carts costing Food Max here in Yuba City on a monthly average? You got to take into consideration the repairs that's caused by the thefts, the pickup service, all of that.
I would say it was $500 a month before I got the system. Okay. So
Okay.
Think of that as a $6,000 a year cost to retrieve, repair, and or replace, which would be increase even more because of the cost of the carts. Once I've gotten the containment system, it's averaging about $50 a month to maintain them. So $600. So it's a drastic change in us because we keep the carts on the lot. So you think about it, our carts aren't being drug off lot, and we don't have to clean the disgusting things off of them, and we don't, and it's repair. Of course, we have somebody that cleans every cart now because of the pandemic, but for customer use. But before that, we would have to bring them in, and we couldn't use those carts, so they were out of commission until they got cleaned, right? So our cart containment system, when they bring them back, they don't just drop them off up front and let it go. They bring them around back so that we can make sure they're ready to go and they're functioning and they're clean and they're ready for customers. Because you've seen some of these homeless carts that come back to you, you wouldn't want, throw your little grandkid in there and move on, right? So that's with every business. Now, we're a big business. I can imagine some of these smaller businesses that don't have that type of labor to take care of these things, and maybe they do just throw them back into rotation without knowing. And if you get a non-reputable cart containment retrieval system, is they might just throw them back up front and let it go. So you might find syringes in these things that are stuck in there that they haven't really taken a look at and cleaned. People do mean things when you take things from them, so they could, we've seen syringes in every walk of the line, from leaving them, power on our power poles. When we go in the back, we kick them out of the back of the store and they stick them all over the place. In our Yuba City location across the way at Food Max, we had homeless living behind us in the generator room. They popped the locks off and moved in, had speakers and everything. And by the time we got them out of there, we cleaned up over 100 syringes. And that was where they were stuffed in places where we would normally reach our hands into and work and everything else. And Troy can tell you, and Lincoln can tell you, I've been stuck once, and it's an 18-month worry. You don't know. I'd rather be stabbed than stuck with a needle. So if we come across these things, we want to make sure it's the cleanest and the most, the environment for our customers is what's most important. So I'll throw a cart away before I put it back into rotation, and that's spendy, and these other businesses I don't think can afford that, so they're going to do what they got to do,
So as a big retail store, a big purchaser of carts, what is your cost on the carts? Because I know mine is not there. My prior career 30 years ago, I managed stores. I managed a store about the size of yours, Kevin. And I know back in the day, those
Kevin,
carts
where you
used
at?
to be New York Market.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you look at it as, now my buying power might be different than Kevin's
Right.
because I buy more. I can
Right.
buy 400 carts at a time. So I can get them for around 110 to 125 for new. And refurbished, I might get from Technobulk, I might get a refurbished one for $80.
Okay.
Because I can buy in bulk.
And then you add the wheel lock system
add
to
the
it. So
wheel
what's the total cost of one of those? Say you buy a brand new one for 125. Now you go put the security system on it. We're at 200, 250.
Yeah, you're at, so you figure $72 for the casters, the install's another $8, then you put in some signage on the carts, right? So you're looking at $90.
Okay, so about
Addition to the cost
220.
of the cart, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
And so if I could just follow up on one of the questions for a large size store, is there any advantage with changing the contract retrieval system, or do you have that in place no matter what? I mean, would there be a benefit that instead of that being mandated, that you'd have your own rep pick them up?
From the city, man, you talking about your rules?
So if a containment system is put in place and it was changed where you were no longer having to pay for a monthly contractual service, would that change your operations at all or save any money?
I can drop stores off my contract the way I wrote it. So that's not a big deal. Once I get the containment systems, I can actually reduce the pickups until there's a need or until I'm comfortable that we've got casters. See, I don't want to do it until I've got casters on every cart. So if you have some lingering out in the parking lot that just got pushed to the side and then all of a sudden they end up back on my lot and then they keep getting off my lot and they keep back on my lot, then I got to be told that, hey, you've got a cart without casters and get it out of rotation. So once I have casters on all of them, I can stop service on that location.
So the way you could structure your contract retrieval system service, basically they're not charging you a flat rate no matter what. If you don't come up, you could reduce it down to per trip.
Yep, and right now it's currently per trip. It's $26 per trip, no matter what. I have no flat rate. So I do have a contract with all my stores, but I don't use them as much when I have containment and I have no need for it. I don't want them running around town looking for carts that aren't there. But say somebody does pull one off the lot like I explained to you and walks
Right.
away with it, then I want to know that it's there. So I've asked, I don't know how you guys identify this and how you get from the city. How do you get?
You could use the mic.
How do you get from the city to the merchant? Do you call the store? I don't know how you guys are doing that now. Do you call the store and say, we have a cart in the parking lot?
Lincoln, can you use you can use the mic up there if you'd like.
Any carts that are reported in our 911 or YC
311.
YC 311 system. I'm used to 911 previous to this, but anything that's reported in our YC 311 system is what I will end up doing is most of the time, if it's a store of New Earth Market, Yuba City Grocery Outlet, a lot of the local businesses, I will make some notification to the store, and that's from the cart plan that was implemented originally when this ordinance came into effect. And looking at hindsight, those do need to be updated. However, we make notification. If not, and then there's sometimes that I will actually, if it's close or if I have the room, sometimes I'll take a city, one of the trucks, and I will go and return it, go grab the cart and return it myself. Having the fact that there's no, there's not a lot of trash in it. It's just an empty cart. It's just an empty cart that's been sitting somewhere. Usually they're close proximity to a store. On the other hand, the other ones that I will, they come in on our YC 311 system. I will notify CarTrack, and I think that's who you guys may use, Retail Solutions. And that is, I want to say that's probably 90% of the stores locally that have any type of contractual agreement are using that service. And as you stated before, and it's been said, there's only like some stores have a 1 or 2 day pickup a week, so they end up sitting, at times, and that's when I will just, it's causing, obviously, and they're all cause eyesores, but if it's in an area or something that's inhibiting traffic or, pedestrian traffic or something of that nature, I will personally just get it out and get it back. So that system is what I will use, and then they have their own. They have a website, and I will just enter in the information, the address, and what have you to that system, and then they'll make the.
Yeah, I think for us, because this is a city that I grew up in, Lincoln has my direct number too. So if there's any carts, he'll get them to me. But I just want to make sure my store is being notified, because that's most important. If he can't get a hold of CarTrax, at least there's a direct line. I don't want to wait for a letter, because that doesn't help you guys, because by then it's been days and who knows who got it. So I just want to make sure there's a process that you have some kind of contact with somebody, because if you call our store, Lincoln, and our store manager, most of my guys over there, meat guys, and they all have trucks too. So if it's a Blythe issue, they'll go grab it. But if it's a letter, it probably will be lost in in the mail. So
Yeah, and that's part of what this is about, is not only the ordinance part, but to try to figure out how we're all going to work together to solve this problem. I know, Lincoln, you guys do a great, job, and the 311s that come in from council members on their way to the office, you've got our numbers as well, because you've been like, Dave, I'm here, but where's that card? It's like, oh, that was 2 hours ago. Sorry. That happened like 2 months ago. And I mean, I know they respond quickly, but it's helping. And since I've been diving into this, I've got some ideas, but I really want to hear from everyone first, to see where we're at and how we can make this work. And because we have to find the solution that works for you guys, that works for us, that works for our residents, that works for Lincoln, that works for Officer Koski. Because, like you said, I mean, and I drive a truck, and I've if I see one that I know where it's going and whatnot, I'll throw it in the back of my pickup, here you go. And I will tell you, I can go off the top of my head and tell you the most carts that I see around town are from a handful of stores. Yeah. And, but we got to figure out the solution to this. And there's some that, I can't touch, and it's for the exact same reason that you mentioned about what was behind yours, because I was kind of novice when I went into this, and was very quickly corrected by these two people sitting right here. Dave, you really don't want to just go grabbing stuff and throwing it out. But it's just junk. Well, there's probably needles in there. What? Didn't really make that connection. I'm just seeing a blight problem and want to get rid of it. So I appreciate it. And this is very good information. So Kevin, would you mind going up and sharing what you guys are doing? And because this gives us a perspective from a large retailer to a more mid-sized retailer. And then we can kind of see, I'm sure there's similarities, but can you go share with us at the mic what you're doing so everybody can hear?
One more thing to add is I
Sure.
went to my dentist's office this morning and there was somebody homeless sleeping in front of the cart, and it was a Target cart, so you know it's over there. And he was gone, so he might have got arrested. So because of my experience, I told the dentist, I said, go ahead and call the landlord and have their maintenance guy, come clean up all this stuff. So all the stuff that's left behind, they'll get rid of. So use landlords. If it's on private property or it's, businesses or anything, they're quicker to clean this stuff up and you don't have to touch it, so.
Right.
Well, good morning. My name is Kevin Cotter. I'm the founding partner of New Earth Market. We have 2 natural food stores, one here in Yuba City, which was our first store, and another one in Chico. Similar issues in both towns. One thing that's clear to me, I'm in the wrong business. I need to be in the cart retrieval business after hearing this discussion today. All kidding aside, so some feedback from how things are going on our end. We have around 75 carts at each location. We really don't have a lot of attrition in our cart inventory, which is good. We have smaller carts, so I don't think they're all that favorable to homeless folks that are looking for a larger cart to haul stuff around town. We do lock our carts every night at both locations, or any surplus that doesn't fit within our locking mechanism goes inside the market. So that's part of our closing procedures every night. We're open 8 to 8, so we don't have late hours. And we're very cognizant of any carts that get strewn about our areas. I've got a pickup, my brother has a pickup. We are very on it about collecting our carts. And we also wash them very well if we find one in town. We have thrown carts away that have been just beyond trying to clean. And our cost is about the same. We also buy from Technobuilt for our supplier, and we're part of an association, so we get a buying power. So we're around $125 for our carts. We don't have the locking mechanisms on our carts, but everything else obviously we have the shopping theft information on the cart as required by the state of California, which leads me to my next point. We had some homeless that were sleeping on the property to the south of us a couple of days ago, and we called police out. They came. They left, but they left with 2 carts, not ours. They had 2 other carts with them. And they were allowed to go down the street, shuffling along in their Home Depot cart, and I think another one was a Target cart. And I'm thinking, they're actually using a stolen product to vacate their homeless camp, and that's okay. So I'm trying to get to the root of this, and it's probably bleeding over to a homeless conversation, which is probably what this is about, but I think there's a cause and effect going on. If that was enforced, we probably would have fewer carts being stolen at some level. So I think it's an education, reporting, and enforcement thing. That's a whole nother topic. So I don't think we've had any calls since this ordinance was in place for any carts missing on at least New Earth Market carts here in Yuba City. So I can tell you our inventory has stayed pretty stable. So from our perspective, it's kind of working. And like I said, we're very cognizant. We're a locally owned business. I have 6 other partners. We're always looking around town for things. If we see it, we're going to grab it. So that's kind of a local owner perspective versus a larger store model versus like a Target or a Walmart. We're just a lot more involved on this side of things. So yeah, I think that's. It'd be interesting. Could there be a mechanism set up in the 311 system that was filtered through the city, where that could go ultimately to a representative of a market, like a text? Hey, you have a cart at this location, I could get it on my phone. I would love that. It's like, hey, there's a New Earth Market cart at Plumas and wherever, 20. I'll drive and get it that day. I'll get it. I'll get it within the hour. I'll get my brother over there. I'll send one of my partners over there, because that's important to us, and it's expensive, and it is blight. There's a lot of things going on with that. So that's just some feedback. It would be really cool if we could get that communication really fast with the tech. And then back to the stolen cart thing. I don't know how it works on the police side of things on a stolen car thing. If someone has a stolen car and you have to impound the car and they have personal belongings in there, how does that work if you have someone's belongings in a cart? I wonder how that would work if you impounded their belongings. Is there a...
I know there's some definite legal issues, and Officer Koski, if you'd like to join me up here so you can have a microphone, you can answer that so that we're trying to get to where we all kind of have microphones and can have this conversation so they can hear. But back to what you were mentioning in the point, that's why we were talking about the first part of this equation is to make it illegal to be off the premises. But with that is going to have its own set of challenges. But as I have shared from this dais and with the PD, it should be another tool in their tool chest to try to get compliance with things. Because the one thing that we don't want to set false expectations on is we can't take our law enforcement and turning them into cart retrievals because they're chasing all the shopping carts around town. But when they're trying to get compliance, like in your situation where they were camping out, it's something that working through all the bureaucracy and the laws they have to, and he can tell us what they are, it's another tool in their tool chest because it's something we don't want in our city. So Officer Koski, if you'd like to tell him what you're facing on that front.
So I'm Troy Koski with Yuba City Police Department. I'm the homeless liaison officer. And I agree. I think we've got two things here that are the main players. The homeless, I would say, are probably 99% of the people that are stealing the carts. I don't think it's the little ladies that are using the cart to get their groceries home. We do have the business and profession code, like Bob said, and then we do have the Yuba City ordinance. It's in the process of being reworked. As I go out and talk to the homeless, I do talk to them about having the carts, and I'm kind of waiting for this to go out. They are on notice that I will be citing them, and other officers will be citing them. And once our muni code is settled, we'll decide whether it's going to be an infraction or a misdemeanor crime. And I do take carts from them and try to return them to the store, or I'll do the YC 311 app. But I think probably what's going to help us best is to somehow make that retrieval process quicker. Because if the cart is sitting out there and someone's got a cart that's full of stuff that they don't need any longer, they'll dump that one and then they'll take the cart that's clean. And the enforcement. As soon as we get this figured out, I think the enforcement I know it's going to increase. It's going to increase by me because I'm out there with them every day. And I think they're the folks that need to be responsible for stealing the carts that's adding to the bottom line of the businesses around.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a cause and effect kind of setup, right? And how many resources do you want to put, or can we afford to put to something like this? But the numbers are pretty impressive about the number of calls through the abandoned cart program. Those are staggering. I mean, I think from 700 to 110, that's pretty good.
I agree. I think we've had an impact. But as I drive around the city, I also, Kevin, I look at it and go, there are so many that aren't getting called in. And because of the stats, as we got into this, my numbers used to not go into that because I was just, I would call over and go, hey, we've got shopping carts here because, I have contact with all these gentlemen. And so I wasn't going through 311. But now I've got to where, okay, just punch it in. I know, okay, which company is it? And the app's pretty thorough. And I like the idea about if we can get our IT department to somehow write the code in that to where because you tell it in the app, this is a New York Market shopping cart, that it would go in and then it would relay out that message and it would send it to a text, to whoever the store representative wants right there. Yes.
So I brought 3111 into our company 4 or 5 years ago, and my team actually manages it. So I don't know how yours works, Link, but ours actually goes and sends out a blanket email to all of our, HR supervisors, whoever needs to get it for robberies, burglaries, any police contact, ambulances, all that. So there's a way to email and text and phone call on our app. I don't know if you have the same options. You might want to look into that. But if you have any questions, you can call me.
Perfect. A question, if I can follow up, because, and do we have any other retailers? Because I don't know, is anyone online that?
I believe we have Walgreens was online. I don't know if she's still there, or and we have Grange Co-op via Zoom here that could chat.
Okay. If they would like to, if Grange would like to chat in and give us some of their numbers and stuff, that would be that would be great. But back to the point, when I drive around town, most of the carts I see are red. They're Target, or I see Home Depots, I see Walmarts. As you mentioned, a lot of it is our homeless population. You can tell when it's the resident that's using it because they're not piled into the shrubbery. They're right next to the bus stop. That's when you know they just took it to the bus stop and hopped on transit and went home, but they leave them there. And that still should not be happening either. But to the point, I see all the larger carts. So do we potentially have, and this I'm looking for you two gentlemen, because you guys have been out there retrieving from all the stores and dealing with things. Do we kind of have a nexus that really the larger carts like you have are more attractive, and that's the ones that we need to focus on versus the smaller carts like New Earth? Would you say that that is across the board?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, they use, because they can pack more stuff in to one larger one than a smaller
I
one.
do have the same problem though in Marysville. I'm installing the system in the next month.
Okay.
And my Marysville Save Mart, which are the same size carts as this gentleman's business. So they'll take anything
If it's available.
You know,
Okay.
we have the homeless right over there at the Mission on 14th in Marysville. So they go right over the levee with those, and they're lost and they're never to be found again. So we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on even the smaller ones. I've got Lucky's banner, I've got Save Mart banner, and we're having the same problems in the Bay Area. So
Okay.
I think the bigger problem is our big carts because those are more attractive. But whatever's available, they're gonna take.
Yeah.
So if, Kevin, you guys aren't using a retrieval service, you're just doing it yourself because it's so small. Has Grange sent us any information? Do they use a retrieval service? I honestly haven't seen Grange around Lincoln.
Yeah, just to answer, have they
They have not.
chimed in?
Yep.
No, just regarding Grange, no, they don't, they're in the same framework as Mr. Cotter here, that they don't, they don't have the volume of carts, and it's such a small number, but they don't have. And the other thing too is I haven't had any really issues with them since they've come into the city with finding a lot of their carts. Sometimes you'll find them on the perimeter of the Feather Down shopping centers, or what have you, and it's just a notification to their manager via email is usually what it's taken me to get that resolved.
On the retrieval basis, once there is contact made, because typically I use the YC311, what is the time delay as far as them, like, is that system working for them? And then, like you said, onesies, twosies, that's tough. What could I do? Because I kind of see them all over town, obviously. What would make it easier for me to let them know
I think direct contact with the management that's working that day.
at the store?
Yeah, because I know the manager for the Yuba City Walmart, and she doesn't have the locking system. We talked about it. I don't know that if she knows that it's an ordinance that they should have it, because Walmart is starting to install it. I've got a few friends that are store managers for Walmart, and the one down in Reed Road, they're married, the Yuba City manager and the one in Sacramento. So he has it, she doesn't. So I think once we identify those businesses that are in your town, and you say, hey, look, you're over the limit, because they got like 500 carts. Walmart's got deep pockets. They'll have that containment system done tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I know Home Depot has it in the Bay Area because those are my peers. So I talk to those guys across. We don't have competition with them, so they have a similar system. It's not gatekeeper, but they use the competitor. So most companies are going to that.
Okay.
Is there, to interrupt, is there any sort of phase-in system that makes it a little more palatable for some of these companies? Because you talked about the $70 to $90 for the casters and the wheel, but a lot of it's the upfront cost to basically put in that.
It's called capital expense versus op expense. So,
Yeah.
I'm sure Kevin can tell you. You do a budget every year going into the next year, whatever your fiscal year is, and you set aside capital. So these businesses, just like our business, has to ask the board of trustees, the owners, for that capital. So that initial capital is very expensive. 50 grand,
That's what I'm saying. There's no way to phase in the system. You got to have that upfront cost.
unless you got a system that would go on a lease and then you're paying interest on that. And
Is there any other type of cart containment system that's is effective? You know,
there's only two that I am aware of, and that's why I went with the best one, because I didn't want to deal with the headache. And for me, it was Gatekeeper. They came from, Cartronics was the original name of it, that were competitors, and they merged.
Okay. Let me take a step back, and thank you, Ben, for going back, because this was the slide I was about to text you or ask you if you could go back to this slide. So when we look at all of the retailers in our jurisdiction that have over 150 carts or more, Bel Air has a locking system, correct?
Yes.
Food Max, yes. Home Depot, no. Lowe's, no. Rayleigh's, because they're married to Bel Air, do they have a locking or not yet?
They do not have one.
Okay, so Rayleigh's is a no. Sam's Club is a no.
It's a no.
It's a no. Target, I know, is a no. Walmart is a no. And Winco is a yes, because I know they have installed them when there was one. So we got a total of 9 retailers that are over the 150 threshold, more than that are over the 90 that was originally set. But at the end of the day, we've only got 3 of the major retailers that are complying with what's there. And this has been part of the problem that's been going through this is we've got some retailers complying, others not. But then back to your case in point, and it is a cap expense. It's not a general overhead expense. But we're also dealing with pandemics. We're dealing with all of these different things that's going on that's put a damper on the economy. I personally, as a business owner, don't want to force any business to have to go spend $30,000 to $50,000 on locking mechanisms. But we need to have something that is fair. So I know that we reached out to all the businesses to be here today, but none of those 6 we've received any response from, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And when I look at those 6, and please, you guys correct me if I'm off cue here, of those 6, I would say the majority of the shopping carts around town, because of the cart size, is coming from those 6. I'm looking for you guys. Would you say that those 6?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the larger retailers.
there's a few with the 99-cent store.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a handful there. So I really think what we need to do is solicit all the businesses above 150, and I'm just picking a random number now, unlike what they did a few years ago, Kevin, when you were going there. I think they said it at 70 and you got them to the 90 that night. That was quite comical, but you got them there. But
Your voice counts.
it's so the first thing I'm trying to figure out is really if you take everything below 150 carts without mechanisms, we have very little problems out of those retailers' carts going missing and being all over town. Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think that instead of it being a 90 cart limit, that we really should look at a larger number. And I would suggest the 150, but I don't want to do as it was done in the past and just not put forth something without seeking their input. So I would like for us to reach out, and Mr. Moody, I'm willing to help in those meetings if you would like to seek what their input is, because yes, Walmart is an international chain. For them, $40,000 for locks is, lunch. It's nothing. But I really want to be respectful because I don't want to just come in with a heavy hand. I don't, to the council, because the council's going to have to approve this, but I don't want us to come in heavy-handed going, you will do this. I'd like to have that dialogue. So if we could reach out to those 6 and set up some meetings so that we can get their input. I was hoping they would be here today. And then we can talk about the system, because just going off of what you said, I want to talk about the large retailers now. If we were to set it at 150 and we were to say, they have to have it, there is no grandfathering, you've got 12 months, whatever the number is going to be, but we're going to set a level playing field. What would it take to get our, whether it be, code enforcement, PD, whatever, tied into that, a universal system to where if you're, driving down and I refer to them as single wides, double wides, and triple wides, going down Live Oak Boulevard, you can just pull over your phone and go poop, and all of a sudden the brakes go on. We just solved the problem.
Troy could, and I can get him one, but I can provide him with a remote, like I was telling you guys in the story, where it just locks up.
Okay.
We could do that. If you see any of them with casters, it doesn't matter if it's Walmart or mine, it'll work.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, I think that's kind of one narrative we need to look at. And that's the idea that I would throw out. Is there any other, Kevin, any feedback on that? I know you're below the 150. I mean, we can move it back to 70 again if you want.
I think that's a good strategy. I just want to see some video when you guys press the button.
Are you kidding? I'm going to use my little thing. I want to go ride with this guy. And I want to be sitting there going, oh, yeah, hey, ride along. Watch this.
Video when the meeting's over, I'll show you.
Gotcha.
I've had a card at Food Medic locking me. I think Bob was watching me leave. I paid for my groceries and it locked up. Yeah, it was comical.
So if you guys are comfortable with that thus far, and does Grange have any input so far?
So Brian Eddy with the Grange, he basically restated they do not have a lot of issues with carts, loss prevention, watches, and retrieves carts when being pushed off the property. So it sounds like due to the small value and they have a small number in active loss prevention, they're able to keep them on site.
Okay. Now, everybody that's under 150, one of the other items that I've seen that I kind of think is a potential issue, and as you said, every voice counts. There's strength in numbers. Could we not look at taking any business that is less than 150 carts, pulling them together under one contract with a retrieval service, and basically charge a monthly service fee to these businesses to basically help be that stopgap, in the middle, to where they're not having to deal with it. We can just go straight to the retrieval, and I'm going back to the very basic. You said it's like $50 a month, so you could do 50 up to. Well, you said the average cost was like $50 a month overall when you did it.
Now that I have a system.
Yeah, now that you have this system. And this is just, I'm just throwing out numbers. This is not the set in stone, but kind of thinking the idea versus, Kevin, you having to run around, even though you guys don't have a big problem, but instead of you guys having to jump in trucks and go get yours, or Walgreens having to go get theirs, or 99-cent store getting theirs, that if we can somehow either find a local vendor that can do this, every other day or 3 days a week, 5 days a week, and have a pool of money that's coming in from everyone that wants to participate. And we can figure out, it's going to be figuring out what the cost is going to be and how many participants we're going to have. And it could be $25 a month. It could be $50 a month. I mean, we don't know. But to try to make it simpler so that we are the conduit through 311, and then that would basically send out a dual message to where we notify the store, hey, we've located your cart, but also it goes out to our retrieval service and they get it and get it back to them. It would take a burden off of our businesses. It would take the blight off of our street. And it might, hopefully we can do it at a nominal enough cost to where to benefit us all. Does that something that might sound, you as a medium-sized retailer, Kevin, I mean, how does that sound to you?
It's a sticky path for me, because it seems, would it be a voluntary or would it be mandatory?
Don't know yet.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just throwing out ideas because.
I could chime in for 1 second there.
Sure.
So I've been reading quite. Sorry, my name's David. I was just helping do a little research for Ben on this, and so just as it relates to ordinances, I've been reading through quite a few from many different cities, and so often they will have a little language in there that says multiple businesses, 2 or more businesses may collaborate on a single plan and submit a single plan, because everyone or most cities have, part of their ordinance is that you have to submit and have a plan approved for how you are going to retrieve the carts. And so there is typically language, or I don't want to say typically, but often language in some of these ordinances to allow for a collaborative effort. Sometimes it is limited to one shopping center or location if there's multiple businesses at one location, but sometimes it's vague and it just says 2 or more businesses may collaborate.
Okay, thank you. So, and if we somehow ran that through the city being the conduit, it might help there. And now that I've had 30 seconds to stop and think, I think there's probably a path to where, like right now, New Earth is not having the shopping cart problem. But if we actually have the tracking stuff go through to where we say, you know what, you may voluntarily opt out, but if you have three violations in 1 month, you have to come in.
There. The data through 311, right? To know if there's a problem.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tracking method.
Yeah, either through the 311 or actually where they're picking up the carts, because again, there's some of us that would just call in and say, hey, there's one here, but if you have a central company that's picking up the carts all throughout the city on behalf of roughly 29 retail stores, or roughly, we're going to have that data. So we'll know, hey, this month they picked up 1 New Earth cart, not a problem. Oh, this month we did 5. So guess what, Kevin? Now you guys got to come in and start paying for the service. But
pay for the service anyway if it makes sense that there's a consortium of enough retailers.
Right.
Because it just takes it off our back.
And
It's what our opportunity cost, right? Our time of use.
exactly, and that's why I was trying to figure out if we took, if we took 26 businesses at $50 a month, that's about $1,300 a month. Probably not going to work for the guys coming from Sacramento, but if there was a local retailer or a local service that did that, they might do that for 2 or 3 days a week because they don't have the distance travel back and forth, and they know they're getting $1,300 a month. If it's, and it may, if it was $100 a month, it'd be $2,600. But I think we've got an opportunity here to think outside the box.
Wouldn't it be great to get a nonprofit, Boy Scouts, or a school involved, where they could be part of the community and do this, and they could get those funds, and it could be kind of a win-win? Again, I'm just throwing that out.
Hey, and
Wild idea.
yeah, and in a non-COVID world, those guys would all be in school, and but
Jumpsuits next door.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
Comp.
Yeah, well, there's 2 problems, because this kind of relates to where I was going to go. The problem we have is people retrieving carts, there's going to be that inherent risk of what's in the carts potentially sometimes. And I love the idea of getting different ones involved, but if we could find one central vendor that could service the city for us as a collective group, we form JPAs for all kinds of stuff through the city and the different collaborative efforts we do. Why can't we, on behalf of our businesses, pull those 26 together and do something that works collaboratively here, talk to the larger ones, and let's find something that works? Because in my opinion, it's not fair for you guys to spend $50,000 on a system and Walmart not. And we don't have a problem with your carts, but theirs are all over town.
Checked to the store manager, she said just send her a letter saying that they have to comply.
Oh, there we go. So there we go, one down.
Working on Rayleigh's right now.
Yeah.
So along those lines, could it be a per cart? And I don't know, Bob, if the vendor that picks up your stuff if they do proactive stuff. I mean, it's because typically there's areas where these carts are kept, where typically where the homeless kind of hang out, Sinclair gas station at the 99-cent store.
So let me back up on that. That's a good point. They won't go out and take from the homeless. They're afraid of that, right? Some of them are.
Yeah.
They were independents. They were CCW. They were Cowboy. They would go take care of
Yeah.
it. Right?
Yeah.
They got CGA working for the. They're gonna say, please give me the cart back, and then they'll call you, and then depending on the law enforcement agency, this one's good. They'll come, and same with across the way. But the bigger cities. I had San Francisco tell me that it's their cart now. Okay, the police wouldn't take their cart, and it's got the B&P section on it, my address, everything else is my cart.
Interesting.
They won't even take it from the homeless because they're afraid of being sued.
Gotcha.
So when you deal with somebody that actually has the cart versus it's sitting on the side of the road, it's a big difference.
Yeah, and I think that
And that's what I mean, the ones that are abandoned, because we do have quite a few that are abandoned and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the two mechanisms. There's some more data if we can dive into and get to figure out what's the actual number of abandoned carts, what's the number that we're taking from the homeless, so we see what those ratios are. And if we can break it down even by who they, what stores they've come from and whatnot, I could see that being proactive, because if you had one service that would do this and they drive around, they just pick them up off the corner, load them on the thing, and however they're going to clean them or drop them back off at the stores, or what is going to be included in the service. I mean, we're basically going to build this from the ground up of how this works.
The city of Yuba City used to take them to the yard, Lincoln, when you were on patrol?
Yeah, that was initially right before this ordinance kicked off. That's what they would do. They would take them down to the South Plant.
And they wouldn't collect them. They would sit down there. We would have tons of them down there.
Would they charge the merchants to come?
There would be a fine if you didn't pick up within a certain period. But to my knowledge, no one was ever issued any fines.
Yeah. See, this is the problems that as we got into this, we started finding out. We did it a few years ago, what the prior council did, but then they didn't enforce it because, like I said, you guys have them, our other large retailers don't.
You guys been proactive. I know, Troy, maybe you have, but have you researched the recycling places around here? Because mine were getting crushed. All the homeless were taking them there. They were getting $5 for the steel or whatever things were, and they were crushing them.
Yeah, to my knowledge, from going out to recycling centers where a lot of the homeless hang out, they're not doing that. They're not buying them.
Okay. That'd be a simple phone call to RI.
That would be a big help for merchants that have these metal carts, because they were crushing them and they were getting money for them.
Okay. So let me back up and recap, because we've been at this almost an hour and a half.
I think I'm on a staff meeting, so am I good? Is that enough for me?
If you can give me 2 minutes, that'll cover exactly what I need. I just want to make sure that all the groups that we have, we're all in agreement that we do need you can't take it off the property. That needs to be enforced. We need to make sure that all the retailers have the consumer affairs, or whatever it was, the information, so that we know that you guys are doing what you need to do. And it looks like our threshold really should be 150. And let's have those 6 retailers that we need to talk to and get feedback, which is now 5, because Walmart said go for it. And then let's keep developing, this plan of possibly a centralized retrieval service that we can spread amongst the other roughly 26. Are we all in agreement with that so far?
Yep.
Okay.
As
good.
we make contact with the businesses, Lincoln, I don't know who's going to be tasked with that, but if they have somebody that's responsible for, and I can get that, then I'll start making contact directly with the stores when I find them.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's just to kind of save that a little bit of time gap from going through YC 311.
Sure.
Again, I think the quicker we do the retrievals, the better it's going to be.
And then the only other takeaway that we had thus far is see if our IT can write a code in there for our 311 to where it notifies you, but it automatically goes to a point of contact.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, Kevin. So, okay.
One thing that popped into my mind, when this kind of all gets hammered out, the other thing that I've done is I worked with the outreach team, the HEART team, and they are willing to purchase carts. I think that's happening now. The little hand carts that as this starts, we're going to be handing those out to hopefully reduce the amount of carts, the shopping carts that they're
We've
taking.
done that too at the Food Max. We've actually sold them so
Yeah.
cheap that the people that, so the mom and pops that want to take them home and not use the cards, but the other ones, they love the cards.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep getting them with the companies that don't invest. I'll show you a video if you guys want to see this. It's pretty cool. This is our store here in Yuba City where they like to push out groceries and then the wheels lock and they don't know what to do.
I see it. It just stopped right outside the door.
So good. That's $300 one
Oh.
pop, and we've gotten them up to $1,000. Some of the stuff they're stealing now is
Oh, that's because usually when it locks, they just keep on walking.
they walk. Well, they'll either grab and run. So if it's beer and they worked hard to get it, they're gonna grab a 12-pack and run, and they're gonna leave all that stuff. But
Gotcha.
the Tide, believe it or not, Tide Pods, $1,000 worth of Tide in one shopping cart.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
They're stealing all the Tide off my shelves. They're stealing, of course, the baby formula if you have it out, but meat, alcohol, GM, merchandise, all those small items that they can sell for $1 a piece. They fence that, so they come in, they just swoop the whole entire aspirins and medicines that are $20 a piece, and they just swoop them into bags, and then they sell them at all these little local mom and pop stores for $1 a piece. So
To follow up on that, so you could set up different fences. So besides having the large perimeter fence, the system, if
So
you,
inside it's called per check, and what it is if you don't go through the register and you try to go out the other doors, it will lock, and then it will seize, and then the alarm will go off, and then it'll trigger a video for my software, and my team goes through their stores because I have so many of them, and they'll start looking at them and they'll confirm it. And once they confirm it, it goes to my email, and then I get it, and then I make a nice little PowerPoint for a return on investment for my investors that are putting in these things. I have to show a cost savings. And then when we're pulling our unidentified shrink for our company, which we pull monthly and quarterly, that's the only way we can tell. So last year I lost $100 million in shrink.
in shrink, and that's where people are walking out the door with it.
Yeah. It's paperwork errors, it's trucking errors, it's internals, it's customers, it's, you name it.
So have you seen that, have you ran that cost benefit analysis to know, is 150, is that one, carts, is that anywhere close to what your savings is, your cost benefit?
My ROI in certain market areas is 12 months. Sometimes it takes 24 months for the system to be paid off fully. But Bakersfield, it actually 8 months
wow.
because of the theft. So you get to a point where with the way the world is now and with law enforcement being hindered, you can't prosecute in these market areas, and they know it. So they'll tell you. I mean, back to my other job, I was on patrol this weekend, and I got a guy that wouldn't sign a ticket for me. He's like, "Take me to jail, COVID. What are you gonna do?"
Oh, geez.
Back in the day, I was like, "What I was gonna do."
Well, let me say, Bob, thank you, and thank you to Grange for being there as well. I think this has given us some productive feedback going forward, and so let's figure this
You guys
out.
got my numbers. I know him personally, so I got a call at 12 as well. But I reached out to Rayleigh's, my peer over there, Matt Hilbig, so he'll get back to me. But the Walmart folks said if you make it mandatory, you send me a letter, I'll get it to my corporate office and take care of it.
Awesome.
With you.
Thank you. Alrighty, thank you, gentlemen. Is there anything else you guys have? Because we're trying to solve this problem together, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing, so.
As we go through the ordinance and the changes, I don't know, one of the things is to clarify the penalties. The way the penalties are written, it's a little bit confusing. It says it can be charged as an infraction or misdemeanor infraction, subject to the administrative penalty and citation process set forth in chapter 1.6 of this code. And that's kind of a rabbit hole, and I'm not sure where it
Yeah.
goes.
Yeah.
We need to clean that up.
I think
Decide whether it's infraction or misdemeanor.
I think probably the best part of, or the best approach to that is for us to keep working as on our side with the 150 up, 150 under, all the things we talked here, and then from law enforcement, which I know you've got the prior, you guys could even work there, but bring us what's going to work best. Work with Chief Landon. You guys work together because we got to have something that has some teeth to it that can be enforced and not just thrown out. But I also realize the environment and all the things we have to do. So I would rely on the two of you and the chief to bring us whatever that recommendation is. We're not LE, you guys are. So
It'd probably be something more in the lines of, stating that just off the top of my head, something that's saying it's a in the business professions code, which is a misdemeanor, and that's what you guys would end up doing your citation for, what have you.
Yeah.
Because
we could do either, and that's what I was thinking, that if we had the Muni code, either one be an infraction, or it could be like the panhandling. If
Right.
you've got more than 3 within the 6-month period, that third one goes to a misdemeanor.
Sure.
Or we could just then bump over to the B&P section.
Right.
And I'll reach out to Cameron King at the DA's office and see if he's got any preference on how
Yes.
he'd like to proceed.
Absolutely.
Once they make it to his desk.
yeah. And Ben, tell me how you would like to proceed on this, because when it comes to that, I would just say, then bring us the language and we don't refer to another section. We just put it right in. Does that work for you and take that burden off of you?
Because I think you're going to have two different things. Is you're going to have the penalty for the violator that has the cart, and then the possible penalty for the store that's not following with what they're required to do. So and if you can break it down in that way, that the violation for the offender that has taken the cart as one penalty, and then a possible violation or whatever that penalty is going to be for the business that doesn't comply with what you guys want them to do. Separate it out.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely, if you could reach out to the DA just to know how that in process will work, and then what's best for you dealing with the homeless daily, and then what's going to work. I'll work with Shannon, the city attorney, and get it cleaned up.
Okay.
Because we're already going to work to really highlight and separate that difference out in the code.
Okay. Yeah.
No, good, very good input. I actually, it was nice to hear that there wasn't too many problems with the thresholds. That it's working out, and the contractual service, at least they weren't hitting them flat rate. Because I know over the years it's changed a little bit, which is substantial. So it was good info.
So, cool. I'm good, gentlemen. Ben, are you good? This was your show,
I'm good.
brother.
Yeah. So I think that gives us something to start with, and we'll reach out to those 6 companies and then come back with some recommendations.
Yeah, and we're down to 5 because one's already said we're good, and I'm optimistic because of the size of those companies and it being a problem, that I'm hoping we, of the last 5, we go 5 for 5, that they say if it's a rule and a requirement, then just tell us, and corporate's on board. I would think that Rayleigh's would, because Bel Air already is.
Yes.
And so that takes us down to Home Depot, and takes us down to Target, and
Sam's and Lowe's?
yeah, well, Sam's would piggyback probably with
Walmart.
With Walmart, so we probably need to reach out and go that. But and Lowe's, yeah, that was the other one. So they're all major retailers. So I think we might get some buy-in there. But let's see what we've got.
All right, great.
All right, thank you guys.